What is the best way, the most cost-effective way to keep your home warm?
Some of the bigger things is we need to do more things on insulating our properties, but actually sometimes, it can be simple things like turning down a thermostat. Those that have got the luxury of being able to afford energy bills and keep their homes on the thermostat a bit too high. If you just turn it down by one simple degree, as long as you keep it between 18 and 22 degrees, can save up to 5 to 10% of your energy bill. So that's a kind of a very simple way of doing things. But, it can be other little tips and tricks you can do as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I always get it when people say about this, but like 18 degrees is not warm for a house.
No, and it's twofold actually. It's that kind of relative temperature, but also it's the kind of drafts and things you have in your house. So it's the comfort factor. So what we have a lot of old properties in our country. You've got some 8 million hard-to-treat properties built before World War II that have got poor insulation, but also very, very drafty. So it's the temperature and it's the kind of the draftiness of them that kind of keeps us uncomfortable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dewbs Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out why Keir's body is saying everything he daren't, why Scotland's Supreme Court is lifting the kilt on the meaning of woman, and why the woke are teaching their toddlers to start hating white people younger than ever. I'm Simon Evans, and tonight's comedians are Lewis Schaefer and Leo Kearse. It's the Dream Team. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's hear one last time tonight's headlines with Joe Casper.
Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Joe Casper in the GB Newsroom. Some breaking news to bring you this evening. A man in his 30s is fighting for his life after a corrosive substance was thrown in an attack in Paignton, Devon. Devon and Cornwall police arrested 5 people after it received reports 2 men approached the victim at 1:10 in the morning last Thursday. A 46-year-old man from Paignton was arrested on suspicion of applying a corrosive fluid with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. 2 men and a woman were arrested on suspicion of conspiring to cause grievous bodily harm with intent, and a 43-year-old woman was arrested on suspicion of wounding with intent. All have been released on police bail pending further inquiries. 2 British tourists are missing after a boat sunk in the Red Sea off Egypt. The Foreign Office says it is supporting several British nationals and their families. 2 Brits are said to be among the 28 rescued. The governor of the Red Sea region said the yacht was carrying 44 people and a high sea wave hit the vessel, causing it to capsize in about 5 or 7 minutes. Rescue efforts are ongoing, led by the military and local officials. The Environment Secretary says more flooding is likely this week, following the devastation already caused by Storm Bert, which has claimed 5 lives. The storm, which swept across England and Wales over the weekend, brought torrential rain, flooding and 80-mile-an-hour winds. In Northamptonshire, a major incident has been declared as heavy rainfall caused severe flooding, overwhelming local emergency services with more than 800 calls. Authorities there are urging the public to only dial 999 when there is a risk to life. Rachel Reeves has ruled out tax rises for the rest of this Parliament as she defended her budget. The Chancellor told business leaders it has brought stability to the economy, saying public services must now live within their means. Speaking at the Confederation of British Industry Conference, she said difficult decisions were needed to draw a line under the inheritance from the previous government. She also dismissed calls for big tax rises on businesses, saying the economy is now on firm footing.
We have now drawn a line under the inheritance that I faced. Public finances are now on a firm footing, and also our public services are funded in a proper way. And we've now set the envelope for those public services for the rest of this Parliament, which means we're not going to have to come back for more.
Some more breaking news for you coming out of the US. A judge has thrown out a criminal case against Donald Trump, accusing him of attempting to overturn his 2020 election defeat. Special counsel Jack Smith had moved to drop all 4 felony charges against the president-elect. Mr. Trump, who was indicted in August 2023, faced charges including conspiracy to defraud the US and obstruction of an official proceeding. The latest order puts an end to the federal effort to hold Trump criminally responsible for his attempts to hold on to power. And in the Premier League, there was this evening there was a shock win for West Ham as they put 2 goals past Newcastle at St James's Park. Thomas Souček and Aaron Wan-Bissaka were on target for the East London side in the North East. Those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Joe Casper. That's me done for today. A very good evening to you. Now back to headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Joe. Hello and welcome to Headliners. This is your first look at Tuesday's top stories with 3 top comedians. Let's have a quick taste of what Leo and Lewis will be dealing with on Tuesday's front pages. So we have the Telegraph to kick us off with Reeves' tax rises milking us, say bosses. An unpleasant image there. The newspaper, public spending cuts on the way from 2026 as Reeves vows no more tax rises. The Mail, no more tax rises, says Reeves. The Mirror, mud, sweat and tears. That's the flooding, I believe. Starmer, I'll make spiking a crime in the Metro. And the Star has all I want for Christmas is you. Oh, bless. Plenty of news there, Leo. Let's start with Tuesday's Telegraph.
Yes, they've got that headline, Reeves' tax rises are milking us, say bosses. She's got her little stool out, she's got her fists on her udders, and she's pumping away. She actually looks like the guy from Kingpin. Have you seen that film Kingpin, the Amish guy who goes out to milk the cow, and he brings back a big bucket of milk, and he's drinking from the milk, and he's like, I milked your cow. And they're like, we don't have a cow, we've got a bull. So you've
done well to fill a pail with it.
Leo, this is on at 5 o'clock.
That's more like a yacht
in the morning.
I think Rachel Reeves has got the same wrist technique. The British leaders certainly think she's been a bit brisk with their tackle. They say that the various tax rises that she's levied on businesses, including the minimum wage going up, which is effectively a tax for them. National insurance increases, all the rest of it. They're making business uncompetitive, and it means they're going to have to cut back in hiring, and it'll affect profits, which then affects, people think, oh, it's just big business. No, we've all got stakes in these businesses through our pension funds, through whatever it is.
I don't have a pension fund.
All right, well,
I think she made herself a sausage to fortune, didn't she, really, by saying that she wasn't going to increase taxes on working people, on any taxes on individual people, and so actually what the taxes she's had to introduce probably been far more crippling to the prospects of ordinary working people than if she'd just put a penny on income tax.
Yeah.
In truth.
Yes, exactly. It's like direct taxes, indirect taxes. It's like taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, if this is why this headline, I know it's in the Daily Telegraph, but it says taxes the rises are milking us, says bosses. But you're totally right. It's affecting everybody. It's like there's only so much money in a pot, and if they're taking 50%, that means.
But you know what bosses are like. They'll take this hit. They won't try and distribute it amongst the working poor. They won't try and socialise their costs and privatise their profits.
What? You don't think that they're not doing it now? You don't think they're trying to save every little penny that they have? And if they get 10% more, then this is what they're going to do.
Let's have a very quick look at the new BBC all-female Spotty team sheet. It says Spotty being sports personality.
Is that what, I thought that was the new Jaguar advert.
Yeah, no, that's right. Well, I mean, it's a pretty atrocious lineup, isn't it? Gary Lineker has gone, and you've been left.
That's the only improvement.
Claire Balding, Gabby Roslin, and that is Alex Scott.
Right.
She is absolutely sporting a pretty Jaguar ad style.
Yeah.
What do you think audience viewers will plummet, or have we become numbed?
I don't think stuff like this matters anymore. I mean, maybe in the old days, when we didn't have access to social media, we didn't have constant celebrities in our face all the time. It mattered. You got to see them in a different environment than on a football pitch or in a Hollywood film. Now we see them all the time. So who cares about award ceremonies? But
well, I will say I'd quite like Sports Personality of the Year, but although it very rarely goes to a personality, it usually just goes to a statistical achievement, doesn't it? So, it can be somebody like a rower or something who famously have their personalities extracted to keep the weight down.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see it go to Chris Hoy this year. What do you think? Do you think he's in with the show?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's got to be. Really.
Yeah, there's a man who's shown a bit of guts and courage in the final straight. That Lewis is off the speed.
I don't know any sports personality. How about Eze from Crystal Palace?
Unlikely. Never know. Do you have anything to say about the single women undergoing IVF?
Well, can I say something about it?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, because I'm quite familiar with single women. And I know of IVF, and it's just tripling. It's going up and down because women were sold a bill of goods. I just got to be careful here. They've been sold a bill of goods. They can have everything. So let's wait. Next thing you know, they're 35 years old and they don't have a husband. It's like what? It's like.
It is true, though, IVF, although obviously it is mostly used, I'm sure, and this statistic will represent the number of women who have waited a bit too long, and obviously it's not so easy to get pregnant by traditional means. But IVF also has the advantage that you have a range of 16 embryos to pick from, and there are certain genetic clusters which is becoming legal to say, it used to be just like certain, degenerative diseases or whatever. Obviously, nobody would quarrel. Yeah. But sooner or later, it's going to be, can I have the tall, blonde, blue-eyed one with the good teeth and the
Because I never want him to get a job in an advert.
But the truth is they pick women based on genetics often.
Of course.
So what is the difference?
People will pay £250,000 to put their kids through private school. You don't think they're going to pay 10 grand to pick out a good embryo?
Yeah, or just even look at the guy and say, no, you're not for me, Lewis.
Let's have a look at the Times now, Lewis.
The Times. Britain isn't working amidst Prime Minister and jobs push. And this is Keir Starmer. He's got his plan to beat long-term sickness, which isn't really put the pressure on people to say, hey, you're not that sick. And from what I can tell from this, you can't tell anything from Keir Starmer because he's Labour and they. Can I say that they lie? I don't want to.
Well, our first proper story, I think, in the next section, we've got a body language expert who's looking at him writhing on the This Morning couch in front of Andy Peters and Kat Deely, which is what passes for.
So you're saying he wasn't lying. He wasn't lying.
Apparently, he looks shattered when he's confronted with this petition. But I don't know. I don't trust him. No, I don't. I don't know that he's not a devious liar like Johnson. He hasn't got those kind of clever artifice kind of lies.
Yeah, but I think he's as a prosecutor, he'll there's ways you can not tell the truth without breaking the law. If you know what I mean, that's almost worse.
Economics with the actuality.
That is worse. That is much worse because you feel so dirty afterwards. He says, "I told you," but I told.
And also, it's interesting in the Telegraph, they report the same story, but say that he's actually dodging a crackdown on sickness benefits. So even though that's the real nub of the issue, that we're paying people, we've incentivised people to get sick, but you get more money than if you just go on, the dole or whatever it's called now.
Absolutely.
Because they haven't cut the benefits that people are getting, but they're increasing the taxes. So, of course, it's going to make people like me.
Absolutely.
We should just mention Joe Biden looking well there. I think he's got another 4 years left in him. What do you think?
Which one's he? It's hard to tell with that turkey's neck skin. And also the turkey seems to have a better short-term memory. So.
I do feel like in certain circumstances, pardoning a turkey depending on what else is in the news coming out of the White House, the encouragement of Ukraine to nuke Russia. I don't know, it jars slightly.
I think the Turkey should have been pardoning Joe Biden.
Well, it's so funny because I remember back as a kid when he pardoned them, it was news because you never saw these politicians.
So, it was a brief glimpse
of the politician. He seems like a nice guy. Now we see him a bit too much, especially this guy.
It's oddly, I don't know if I like it though. It's it's like a blasphemous mockery of the pardoning of Barabbas, isn't it? And although that's Easter, I think
it's just a turkey, Simon.
I hope that turkey goes on to have an industrial. Do you think they go on to pardon turkey? What is it, released back into the wild? There isn't really a wild for turkeys, is there?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the farm to have another go.
Just for another year. Don't get your hopes up, mate.
No, the truth is that turkeys were once considered wanting to be, I think by Benjamin Franklin, the natural bird of America.
Oh, really? Did he?
Yes, before they chose the turkey.
Yeah,
the eagle.
Not the eagle,
gold-headed
right?
eagle. Yeah, that could have been on the seal of state.
Yeah, this
like a Bernard Matthews.
Is that going to
fistful of nuggets. Now, can we have a quick look at the what have we got? The Guardian next, I think, Neil.
Yes, the Guardian have this. Labour makes pledge to ensure no young person is left behind. They say they're going to transition every single young person in Britain. Everyone's getting their tackle chopped off. No, they say they're going to help. And they've got business leaders and the Premier League on board. This scheme to get jobless young people into work or education, which I'm sure every government has tried. Every single. I mean, I remember this in the 80s.
And you've got to keep coming up with the optimism, haven't you? You've got to keep throwing another barrel of hope on the fire. It's
because
just
this is where most of the money is being spent, basically.
Yeah.
Am I right?
I mean, I personally am cynical about the whole idea that you can engineer, considerably better or level up and all the rest of it. I think there are a certain amount of baked-in opportunities into every individual. It can be quite random who gets them, but yeah, the idea that everyone has the potential to fly. But I think it is statistically proven that the best time to spend the money is young, between about 0 and 3.
Yeah.
That's actually when you start.
I think what would really help is military service. I think if I'd have done...
What, for preschoolers?
Yeah. Well, I think, because they're talking about, getting teenagers and stuff into work and out of the sort of, just despondency of jobless life.
Absolutely.
And I think, military service would give you discipline, would give you so much. I wish I'd done it when I was a kid.
My father, who's 94 and probably watching this evening, hello, Dad, he still speaks so highly of his national service. At the time, he found it hard, but he credits it with... he left school at 14, had no university. That to him was the couple of years that defined him, really, and shaped him, and on he went. And they're going to bring it back in Germany, I believe.
My father speaks very highly of the National Service.
Yeah.
I mean, he called it World War II. He was shot twice in France, so... That
did him no harm. That's all the front pages still to come. What Keir's body is saying this morning. Is this the beginning of the end of non-crime hate incidents? And it's time for the Scots to decide what a woman is once and for all. That's coming up shortly. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
We shot with the London Eye in the background, so it's quite an iconic shoot to do my cover of the Playboy magazine.
And you moved into the mansion for a while. Hugh called you the British Carmen Electra. You were one of his favourites, and it's renowned for its parties, of course. Over there, you must have had a few of those. Must have been wild times.
Fantastic parties, yeah. I mean, I met some incredible people. I will forever respect him and everyone at Playboy for the love and the support.
And you were on giant billboards, you were modelling for Nike, for Reebok, you're earning thousands of pounds a day.
Wow.
Absolutely like living the dream in terms of a model's lifestyle, and then things began to change.
Well, I've been living in Windsor for 4 years, and I can't get back into Windsor at the moment. The rents have gone ridiculous. I was paying $550 a month, and then the landlord just turned around one day and said I need to be paying $750. And I didn't really have a proper tenancy agreement, and I looked through it and I said, oh, can we get something in writing? And he was like, oh. So in the end, I wrote a tenancy agreement out from off the internet and I got it all signed. But then he went, if you're not going to pay the extra £250 a month, then you're going to have to move out. And I was like, well, you're going to have to give me 4 weeks. I can't just move out. I've got nowhere to go. And I think he thought he could just throw me out there and then, and he said, I've got someone that's going to move in that's going to pay £700-800 a month. So I went and got the 10, and I thought maybe this will be the way I can go for a few months or so, you know, and it was still summer a few months back when I became homeless. So, you know, I got the 10 and I got all the cooking equipment and what have you from the money I got from some of the jobs I did. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and be a free spirit for a bit, and I'm going to have to just do my own thing. And you know what? It was the biggest mental relief to be able to have my own space. I mean, that was so liberating. Absolutely.
GB News, the People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans here with Leo Kearse and Lewis Schaefer. We are into the papers now. We're into the guts of the thing. The Daily Express, Leo, have got the body language experts out. This can only mean one thing. Keir is on the couch.
That's right, not the psychiatrist's couch, although that might be a good place for him soon. So Keir Starmer was in shock and had no words over election petition, says expert. This is Keir Starmer. He was on ITV's This Morning with Kat Deely and Andy Peters to discuss, they raised the petition. There's this petition that's been going around. It's got over 2 million signatures. It's an official government petition, and I think over 100,000 signatures, and it has to be debated in Parliament or raised in Parliament. Obviously, it's not going to result in a general election, but it's calling for a general election. So they've got a body language expert, Darren Stanton, who says Starmer often finds difficulty in hiding how he's feeling when he doesn't know how to respond. But how do you do Starmer's body language? Like, the man's like a plank of wood.
Yes.
How would you? Like they say, the guy says, well, he's blinking rapidly. So that's the only animated part of his face.
More like a slightly malfunctioning Dalek. It's like saying, don't judge a book by its cover, but you're looking at like a box file. You know, just like a kind of... I don't know how I feel about this petition. I'm slightly torn because on the one hand, I do think it's probably quite a good way of allowing millions of people clearly feel strongly that Starmer has already gone wildly off track.
Yeah.
You know, they were told they believed that the Labour Party would be a relief after 14 years of dismal Tory rule. In fact, they're worse. On the other hand, it is all a bit like, can we have another vote on Brexit? Can we have another go? You know, you were like, well, we had a general election. You had your chance. You probably voted reform or just sat at home because you felt the Tories had let you down. And this is what you get.
Exactly. I mean, we don't know who those people are filling out the petition.
No.
And they could just be Tory voters or Reform voters or Lib Dem. So it's kind of meaningless until you get over 50% of the whatever. Until you get like 25, 40 million people, it doesn't mean anything. And so,
having said that, 2 million is quite a lot in like 4 days or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really quick. You know, that is.
Yeah, because how many people voted for Labour? It's about 8 or 9 million, I believe, in the general election. So 2 million is a big chunk of that.
If it gets up to 8 million.
No, I don't think so. All they got to do is press a little button on a thing and sign your name in there.
It's nice to feel that he's hated. I think that's the important thing. Lewis, staying with the Express, dozens of councils are to be abolished, all combined into larger uni-councils in largely rural counties. I'm interested to hear how this maps onto the Team World matrix.
Oh, well, totally it does. This is dozens of councils. This is a very British story because it's not only are there counties and shires in the country, there's also small little places like Ashford, in like Kent. Yeah. There's like something to have their own government. Yeah. And what Keir Starmer wants to do, what the Labour wants to do, is of course they want to do. They want to eliminate democracy. This is the party against democracy. So they want to close down all those, or many of the small ones, join them together.
Clump them.
And I mean,
can I tell you what I found the most sinister in this? I don't know if you saw this detail. I mean, this may just be propaganda, but he says a couple of paragraphs in, he says, we're only doing this to councils that wanted it done to them. that like signed up for it, like a survey went out. Would you like to be abolished? Oh yeah, I think that sounds like. I mean, what kind of?
Yeah,
the council says, you know what? It's like.
I think they should have sent that survey out and just done it to the ones who didn't want to be abolished, the ones who are clinging on, who desperately want to do it. I think this is actually a good idea from Labour. This is going to reduce the burden on the public purse, and I don't think it's going to harm democracy too much because nobody votes in local elections. Nobody knows. Nobody cares. We just care about, you know.
Well, they protest vote, don't they? Council elections are by and large used to. Again, tell Starmer that we hate him without actually taking the risk of installing it.
Right, and if it's important, they will vote. I can't believe you'd be in favour of this thing. This is so wrong.
No, I find it very interesting.
We need more democracy.
Local democracy, of course, but the trouble is not enough people. You're right, not enough people vote, and we don't quite know what they have control over. And very much as with pre-Brexit, the government, it's very easy for them to say, well, we can't really help, we can't really do anything about that because that's enshrined.
Because you know what it is? It's like when I used to be a real estate agent in New York. It was an expensive building. In New York. An expensive building. And somebody complained that the service charge was too high. And they took it to the president of the thing, and the president of the building. Yeah. And the guy says, what, you can't pay it? Maybe you should move.
That's the good lesson to be learned. There is the next story, Leo. The first cracks starting to appear in the sheer blank mile-high wall of indifference to common sense that is the College of Policing.
Yeah, so the Home Office has issued common sense guidance for non-crime hate incidents. So these have come to the fore recent with Alison Pearson being issued with a non-crime hate incident, although Essex Police dispute that. But we've seen other people being issued with, like kids getting issued with non-crime hate incidents for saying a classmate smells of fish, somebody else for calling someone shorty, somebody else was issued
of chocolate.
Yeah, and so somebody else was issued one for an aggressive haircut. So these are clearly nonsensical. So they've and the police are dishing these out. They seem to have taken over actually dealing with crime for the police. They dished out more than 13,000 of these, and they can be sort of more significant, more substantial than actually having a criminal record, because a criminal record is expunged after a while, whereas these stay on your record and turn up in DBS checks and stuff like that.
And there was something I found quite, again, sinister. I'm using that word a lot tonight. What's her name? Cooper, isn't it?
Yvette Cooper, yeah.
Yeah, Yvette Cooper. She was saying that she agrees that some of them are vexatious and trivial and should be eliminated, but these are a valuable way of keeping track of sentiment against certain communities, including Jews and Muslims. Basically, it's a way of allowing Jews and Muslims, and in particular, I suspect Muslims, I will say it, to elevate the degree of offence, hatred, attack, assault, whatever, to which they are exposed. Yeah. Because they can say, oh, there's all these thousands of things which, when you look at them in isolation, amount to hot air.
Yes, and that's good. It's good that people should be allowed to vent their complaints. The problem with this is it's a bad name for it. They call it a hate crime. Just call it the annoying neighbour bill. You want somebody to call. You want to be able to call it something.
No, that's the ASBO. Well, we had that, but that was good because it sounds a bit like aggro.
No,
we like the ASBO.
That's where they're putting something. But you should be able to call the police and say somebody's hanging dirty soiled underwear next door.
Red flag.
Red flag. And they say, OK, we'll come, we'll check it out, we'll talk to the people. And that's the way they'll know if it is a real problem.
But the thing is, the bar by which a non-crime hate incident becomes like a hate crime is so low already. Yeah. It's so easy. You only have to look at somebody in a threatening manner as you are using the language of the non-crime, and it's assault.
And it's completely uneven, and this guidance isn't going to help it at all. So they say they've got common sense guidance. I mean, good luck finding police with common sense. And also, they say it's the guidance is to only issue them when there's a clear risk to community tensions. Why have we got communities? Why aren't we a nation of individuals? Why aren't we all British? This is the thing. Have we admitted that we've balkanised the nation? Is this, we've got the Muslims here, the Jews here, and they all have to be treated separately?
Very, very good point. Daily Mail, Lewis. It seems Scotland finds out tomorrow once and for all if men can get pregnant and if lesbians can have willies.
Yes, and this is quite interesting. SNP-led Scottish government is set to argue tomorrow at the Supreme Court of Britain, if there is such a thing. And is it in the Constitution?
It used to be the House of Lords, but it's called the Supreme Court, which I feel is a despicable Americanisation of our legal practice.
But I was in the building the other day, and it was quite nice.
Yeah, it's been there for a while.
Yeah, but no, they redid it, and they had...
Oh, yeah.
See, if you can go in there and just walk around. At least they let me do that because I'm an American. Anyway, so they want to argue for the rights of pregnant men and male-born lesbians. So that's men who were men and then stopped being men. They became women, and then they're lesbians at the highest court tomorrow in a landmark case. What happened is Scotland had this thing that said if you call yourself a woman or if you get judged by the G, you're a woman.
Didn't even need a certificate. They used to have the gender certificate, but they said they eliminated even that.
Self-certification.
So this feminist group, Women
do
for
it for MOTs.
Yeah, and they say, because basically it messes up with the British version of the case, which says you have to be a man, there's a difference between a man and a woman. And if they approve of this thing, then there's basically saying that the English version, Welsh version, is not.
It's going to be interesting because, of course, there was a time only a couple of years ago when this was a pretty hot topic between the SNP and the Tories, wasn't it? And a lot of people thought that Nicola Sturgeon was luring Rishi Sunak into a trap, but it turned out to be the other way around.
I think they probably going to have to lose. Scotland's going to have to lose.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're bound to. I mean, this definition of a woman as anyone living as a woman, that's not a definition. It's like, what is that? That's a circular...
the definition of a circular argument. The Times now, Leo, will try and slip this one in just before the break. A particular stop. They've decided that we're going to have a break. Still to come. Reverse engineering, a tarnished past, reform voters not welcoming the DWP, and it's J.K. Rowling versus the British Transport Police, with the emphasis on trans. Of course, this is Headliners, only on GB News.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a blustery day, we are going to see winds ease into this evening, leaving a mix of clear spells and showers tonight, and it is going to be turning rather chilly under those clearer skies too. Storm Bert, currently sat to the northeast of the UK, will eventually move its way over to Scandinavia. It does leave behind some blustery winds and some outbreaks of rain for a time, though these will eventually ease away overnight. Still plenty of blustery showers though moving through, particularly around western coasts, and these may linger on for a time, bringing longer spells of rain at times too, particularly across parts of the south. Further inland across central and southeastern areas, we're likely to see plenty of clearer skies, so a risk of frost, perhaps even some fog patches by the time we reach tomorrow morning. So through around Scotland, we are still going to continue to see plenty of showers, mainly around coasts, though a few feeding inland at times too. Under clearer skies, though, it is going to be feeling chilly with a risk of frost. Still plenty of showers around coasts of Northern Ireland, northwest England too. Drier and clearer further east, and generally across parts of England and Wales, it is going to be a much clearer start to the day. Once again, a risk of frost, perhaps even some fog patches by the time we reach the morning. But overall on Tuesday, it is set to be a much brighter day. Still can't rule out some showers, mainly around northwestern coasts, perhaps just feeding inland and across northern parts of England at times. But overall a brighter day, plenty of sunshine, and with much lighter winds, it's likely to feel much more pleasant compared to this afternoon. That's away from northeastern coast of Scotland though. Still some blustery winds here and still plenty of showers moving through. Now, heading into Wednesday, we'll see a bit of a split in the weather. Outbreaks of rain across the south, some blustery winds. This rain could linger for a time across central and parts of southeast England. But to the north of this, plenty of clear skies, plenty of sunny spells, still just a few showers around coastal areas. And to finish off the week, likely to see some foggy and frosty mornings, but still plenty of sunshine by day. Bye for now.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home? Talking about? Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewbs, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dewbs Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners. A quick run through the front pages for those who started a little late with us. The Telegraph have Reeves tax rises milking us, say bosses. Newspaper, public spending cuts on the way from 2026 as Reeves vows no more tax rises. The Mail, echo that, no more tax rises, say Reeves. The Mirror, mud, sweat and tears. That's the floods of Storm Butt. And Metro, Starmer, I'll make spiking a crime. The Star, all I want for Christmas is you. There we are. Those are the front pages. Meanwhile, on the inside, Leo, the Times has a particular stop and search power that is very rarely used and is useless and should be very rarely used, says a charity that should take a long look in the mirror.
Yeah, and I just want viewers to be aware that in the break, Simon asked for a drink of my milk and stuck his fingers in the bottle and ran his finger around the inside of the bottle.
I was wiping your spit out before I drank it. Now, you're welcome to do that.
I don't care about my spit. I care about your fingers.
I guess that's my milk now, then.
Yeah, it is.
Call me Rachel Reeves. I'm milking Leo Kearse.
It's like the opening of Inglorious.
Yes.
Well, I can't actually say the word because we're on air.
Bar stewards.
Bar stewards, yeah. So this is stop and search power ineffective and should be scrapped, says report by charity. So they have the Section 60 order, which is imposed for 24 hours in specific areas where violence is likely to flare, such as riots or football matches or whatever. And this charity is saying it's rarely used and it should be scrapped because its use has only accounted for 0.6% of arrests for offensive weapons. This is according to the Habib Kadiri, the executive director of Stopwatch, the stop and search charity. But if it's rarely used, and it's still accounted for 0.6% of arrests for offensive weapons, sounds like it's incredibly effective because people are arrested for offensive weapons all the time. So this seems to be like a charity with an agenda that's misrepresenting the data, misrepresenting the statistics. And also they say it unfairly targets black and minority ethnic groups. It actually disproportionately protects black and minority ethnic groups because most crime is, within the same ethnic group. So by stopping people carrying blades, you're stopping people from that ethnic group being stabbed with blades.
But it is, as you say, it's a rarely used power, and essentially the difference from the usual stop and search power is that you don't have to have any justifiable cause while you're stopping an individual, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to say, I have reason to believe that you may be. It's so very rarely used. This charity sounds like it's trying to justify its own existence. Would that be? Is that essentially what's going on? What do you think, Lewis?
I think it may be rarely used, but I think it's really offensive, the idea you're going to just stop somebody on the street because we don't like the way you look and there's something going on down the road that could be a problem. So we're going to... It's just basically to harass people. You should be totally against this.
I personally feel a lot happier attending drill concerts when I know the likely suspects have been frisked on the way in. Reverse engineering now at Nottingham University, but sadly this is not a useful STEM discipline to steal industrial secrets without resorting to espionage. It is the usual old grumble about ill-gotten gains funding academia.
Yeah. And this is Nottingham University, which is basically getting the guy who's given the most money to the entire place. He's dead, but his family, and they're saying we're going to start changing the buildings. I don't think there's any more money coming in from this guy. That's why they want to change it.
Yeah.
Change it. And so he's saying he may not have any of the money that came from slavery, but he has something called social capital, which I'm not sure what that means. What social capital means? He maybe has a nice suit.
It's the kind of thing you get from just having your tie nicely knotted.
You know what? Yeah, they could say because I'm a white man or something. I was.
So he was born. The late Dukey was born William Arthur Henry Cavendish Bentinck. He was born 1893, almost 60 years after the abolition of slavery in Britain.
Yeah,
You
that
think his
was
slate
done
would be
by
clean?
then British people basically fought to outlaw.
Absolutely. We spent a fortune. We spent like our entire annual budget on it or something, I think, one year, didn't we? It was extraordinarily
to pay
generous.
off people to make them stop and ask them to stop.
The absence of gratitude on the world stage is absolutely gobsmacking.
And maybe some of those people, I don't want to say what but
well, this is the thing, never do any good. I mean, this guy helped set up Nottingham University, and this is how they reward him. This is how they reward his name, by accusing him of profiting from slavery when he was born after slavery was abolished. It's disgusting.
And he's dead now.
And he's dead, and his family, you know, say they didn't make money from slavery. This is a disgusting slur on the family. I think Nottingham, I mean, thank God it's just Nottingham University. It's not a proper university.
I'm very glad I didn't go there. It was on my list, but I decided to exclude it. And I had something in my gut, and I realised now what it was. I was right.
Yeah.
Racist trash time now, Leo, as a cheerfully illustrated new picture book for preschoolers tells them that white men invented race. That's 3 scare quotes in a row.
So Outrage's controversial children's book, Our Skin, blames white men for introducing the idea that thin is beautiful, and also inventing the idea of race. So they say, a long time ago, way before you were born, this is a quote from the book, a group of white people made up an idea called race. So they're white, but they invented race. That's how can they be white if they invented race? The word white is a race. You know what I mean? So these people, I mean, also, is there anything white people didn't invent? That's what I've got to ask.
I hope the 5-year-olds spot the logical flaw in
it's absolute nonsense. But then they go on and they say it wasn't just they didn't just invent race. They also invented this idea that some women are more attractive than others. So they say a group of white men started making up lots of ideas about bodies that weren't true. They said that one kind of body was the best, and that being fat was bad and being skinny was good. This is actually 100% true. I was one of these men. I was at that meeting.
Well, that's interesting, because I regard the prevalence of very skinny models at the higher echelons of fashion as being essentially a gay man thing.
Yeah.
I think most men like a little bit of meat on a woman, don't they?
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
it's
but
slightly different. I mean, I wouldn't put it those ways in a 5-year-old book.
But this isn't talking about, you know, runway models. This is talking about like women who are attractive,
healthy weight.
Yeah, sort of Miss Universe type.
Well, I have seen the picture of the 3 authoresses, you know, and they look pretty much exactly as you might expect.
Are they monsters? And also, I mean, it's kind of true. Like, different cultures do have different predilections for, you know, for body size.
Many cultures, and indeed in Britain a few hundred years ago, a little bit more fat was considered to be a good sign that you were you had access to the higher table, right?
I think skinny is basically, it's called neoteny.
Neoteny, is that right? What, looking like a very small thing, like an embryo?
Like looking like a small thing rather than a big thing.
Okay.
So I'm not saying whether... It just, I think I feel great for these 3 women because they've made the Daily Mail and they're being read by hundreds of thousands of people.
I had a look at it on Amazon. It is selling well, you know, and it's got a load of 5-star reviews and then a load of 1-star reviews going, this is absolutely dreadful, racist drivel. I haven't appalled that Amazon would even sell it. Oh, well, that's the way to get published. Over to the civil service, Lewis, where the wrong political views lead to some very uncivil outcomes, it seems. This is in the Mail.
Yeah, this is one of those sad stories that are perfect for this channel. This woman named Michelle Cochran, she was a DWP worker. They're the same people who give me my benefits, my pension.
Do they know you're here?
Daphne Fairfax.
Pension, earned, well earned, anyway. Was threatened. She was threatened with the sack, and then she was sacked because she sent out on Facebook. I don't know how she sent it out, but different kinds of
Facebook,
literature.
Some memes, I think, and that sort of thing, didn't she? Yeah.
Like 12 or 14 bits of literature about stuff that's...
I mean, I suppose the thing to say is I don't personally know the rules about what you're allowed to say if you're in the DWP generally. Maybe it's not OK to, you know, express support for any political agenda, but it does sound like she is of the view that other more mainstream artists were fine.
I bet plenty of them were sharing Jeremy Corbyn stuff and Labour stuff.
Yeah.
This just shows all these organisations say, oh, we're all about diversity and inclusion and bring your authentic self to work. But not if your authentic self is like the half of the country that doesn't like Labour.
That's
but I
right.
like that she's like embracing to do this, but I think she's just looking for a lawyer who's going to, or whatever, a solicitor.
I like embrazened. That's very
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
well, it's like what's happened when Trump
Have they actually cast the statue of her outside the
embracing? Is that the right word? Is that
no, it's good. Well, emboldened or
emboldened.
Yeah,
embracing. Right.
Yeah, it's a brazen use of
She's looking for a lawyer. She's saying, hey, anybody out there want to take this case? She hasn't filed any. It's not gone to tribunal. Or
I tell you who will look after a good Queen Jo. She is on the warpath again, Leo. This time in the Telegraph against some palpably absurd new rulings in the British Transport Police.
Yeah, so J.K. Rowling attacks British Transport Police for allowing trans officers to strip search women. So this is, anybody who's identifies as a woman. So, I could identify as a woman. I could go to the doctor and say, look, I've been living as a woman. Look at my jacket. Look at my shirt. And he'd give me a gender recognition certificate. You don't need to. You can have a beard. You don't need to be. You don't need to look like a woman. You can just be a big hulking bloke. And it's ridiculous. It's not like they're just going to get the sort of realistic sort of, Blair Whites doing this. And they're going to be allowed to strip search women, which is a really intimate, traumatic thing. It's the absolute insanity that British Transport Police would do this. Other police forces are refusing it. And so obviously J.K. Rowling is mocking them. She said, because they've also had this, British Transport Police have had this campaign about gender-based violence and saying it starts with men. So J.K. Rowling said, what else starts with men?
But the truth is, I mean, it's probably very hard to get British Transport Police officers.
It might be.
And if you're trying to take away their right to,
What, you think that's an incentive?
An incentive, yeah.
I think this is a bad incentive.
You've got to throw whatever you can at these people.
I want to throw out a name check to Baroness Claire Fox asked a question about this, tried to drill down on the police in the House of Lords today, so check that out online. Still to come, Tenbury Wells Mistletoe, Tenbury Wells tractor waves, 2 separate stories, and a couple of stories not set in Tenbury Wells. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Joined by international life coach Cheryl Findlay, who has joined forces with a Liverpool business owner, Kate Hill, of sustainable sportswear brand Lola Star, to empower women and inspire women across the nation. And to celebrate this partnership with the new Lola Star collection, the two will be hosting an exclusive event next Saturday.
The sportswear brand was launched after, your story. You lost how much weight?
So 16 stone, which is over 220 pounds, which I know is quite significant. But during that kind of decade-long journey, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about what it takes to be successful, to be happy, to be well, and to just live an incredible life every day.
Are you giving them goals to work towards or helping them structure their life?
Yeah, so I don't give out goals, absolutely not. It's all about whatever an individual wants. So what we do to begin with is we understand, where are you now? Where are you thriving? Where do you feel really happy and excited in your life? And what's lacking? Where would you like to feel better? Where would you like to improve? And then we take it from there.
So I'd love to take that on board. I'd love to be my true self and fulfil my potential. So have you got any practical tips on how to do that?
Yeah, so we start with clarity, right? You need to know, it's such a busy, fast-paced world we live in. There's so much sensory overload. It would be so easy to be distracted. So we need to kind of quiet all that noise down and start with, where do I want to focus? Pick 2 or 3 things. Where do I want to focus? And then we define the goal. What would I like that area of my life to look, not just look like, but feel like? And then we take it from there. So that's where you would start. I actually had a cancer diagnosis in 2019. And I just decided if I was going to be lucky enough to be on the other side of it, I wasn't going to play small anymore.
GB News, the people's...
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Sorry, had a brain freeze there. Temporary Wells back in the news. For the second time in a week, they had the floods, of course, this week, Leo. Now they have their world-famous mistletoe auction.
Yeah, and mistletoe, of course, grows on trees at quite a height, so it's not affected by flooding. But it's still the death of mistletoe. Work parties are ditching the Christmas tradition over abuse fears. You know, Christmas parties, people hold up a bit of mistletoe and try and, you know, cop a feel, which is obviously a minefield. I can't believe any work...
Kiss.
I can't believe it. Or, yeah, a kiss. I mean, it starts with a kiss.
A quick grope under the mistletoe.
yeah. But, I mean, I can't believe people still do that mistletoe thing at Christmas parties, at work Christmas parties. I mean, you're getting fired. If you try and kiss anybody, you're getting fired. So they have a mistletoe auction. It's the only auction for mistletoe. It's in Tenbury Wells in Worcestershire, and they're selling only a quarter as much mistletoe as they normally do.
So this is in bulk, presumably, like a crate or whatever that you then take down.
They sell by the kilo, and then, like, I guess, you know, card shops or whatever will sell it. They say sales peaked in the 90s. It's like, yeah, the 90s were great. You're allowed to have sex then. It was amazing.
People weren't at work. There were no women at work back in the day. It was just guys. So guys were kissing each other. You don't care at a Christmas party.
I had a job in the 90s. I didn't know I was born. It was saucy.
Yeah.
There were saucy parties, Christmas parties.
I seem to remember women getting upset with me even then. They didn't call HR, but they called...
You started it, didn't you? It was you pushing your luck that brought in the whole woke...
I didn't even know. Yeah, probably. I take some blame for it.
Mistletoe, incidentally, is the golden bough of the book of George Fraser, one of the birth of sort of like worldwide religious rights and customs around the world and stuff. Mistletoe is a very pagan symbol of... it'll sink back down, but it'll come back up again at some point.
Yeah.
It's thousands of years old.
Does it have any medicinal effect, like real something?
I don't think so, no. It's just like... Because it's actually a parasite, isn't it? It grows up the trunk of other trees.
Is it a fungus?
Oak, I think, right? Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a, you know, like ivy. It's a creeper. So it's an odd thing that it would be considered, you know...
Does it live off the tree, or is it like there's a word for it, like a phylocyte or something that sits on the tree but doesn't actually damage it?
I think it might be. We're going to have to get Jamie to look up.
Dictionary corner.
Well, send us a message at LewisSchaefer.co.
Lewis, food news now, you'll be pleased to hear, and why eating a whole can of Pringles is virtually foraging.
Well, I'm going to tell you an interesting story. It's not that interesting that I said it, but a former food consultant has lifted the lid on how Pringles tube has been engineered specifically to keep us going back for more, and says it's down to evolution. And it says that Pringles, which is like one of the first manufactured product, because it was basically baked crisps.
Yeah, right.
So they were able to save money. That, you know, you could put more in a thing. It could be. It was.
So it's not fried Pringles. It's a different process.
I think they're baked, but they're basically potato. They're not potato chips. They're what do you call those?
Reformed, but I think it's got potato in it.
It's like
they've
MDF.
got potato.
Potato MDF.
They're kind of like it's not like a filter fish. It's like, what do they have on Purim?
I will say the sour cream and chives. It is every bit as Moorish as they say. But this guy's taking credit for designing a narrow tube, right?
He said a narrow tube, which will make the food more foraging-like.
Because you have to try a little bit harder.
Because you've got to try. But the truth is, it's like they're basically... Yeah, it's just a chip. And what does the chip have? It has sugar and it has salt. So you don't need to even make it foraging. You don't need
grease.
And what makes it great is it's a manufactured product and looks expensive to buy.
Yeah.
You can't buy it for 25p.
Good little man with a moustache. Do you like them, Liam?
Yeah, I mean, I don't eat them anymore because I'm on a non-UPF diet apparently, so I can't eat anything sold by Homebase. But yeah, it's interesting how they also have the sounds and the feel of food is so important, and the manufacturers of even drinks cans. I didn't realise this. The crack and the sort of tear, is so important. So they really engineer them to make a good crack and hiss.
That really makes sense to me. It's like when you walk past the chip shop. They have the actual food that they're frying, but they also are pumping out aromas, aren't they?
Yeah, but this guy, whatever his name is, he's like lying. You know, he's like, oh, I built that. Look at that. That's I built. That's like a guy me taking you around New York, showing you a big building. I built that, and I built that.
Squeeze one more in, Leo. This is sad news from Mexico in The Guardian about the downsides of having a pig mega farm move in next door. Who'd have thought it?
So this is in The Guardian. Drugs, hormones and excrement. A day in the life of a Guardian journalist. This is the polluting pig mega farm supplying pork to the world in Mexico. So Yucatan residents are saying the waste oozing from hundreds of these enormous hog farms is destroying the environment. I guess that's why it's called Yucatan. But basically, yeah, they've got 50,000 pigs in these farms, and they release all this effluent that poisons the soil, poisons the water. And this is basically the future for the UK. Starmer wants to replace small farms with big agribusinesses owned by offshore financial giants like BlackRock. So, yeah, get used to this.
BlackRock will be very much the mark of the pig mega farm. I think it's very sad. I've been to Yucatan. It's a wonderful old peninsula. It's where the Mayan had the civilization with the ziggurats and all of that. You know, there's some proper history.
Yeah, no, it's a great place. They're basically saying that they operate without any type of environmental permit. That's not going to happen here, I don't think.
Not quite as bad.
But it's Mexico, man. I mean, that's Mexico.
We've got a little pig farm up in on the South Downs, just north of Stenham, I think it's called. They're sort of free-range, the pigs up there. They're just very low little rope. It's lovely to go and see the pigs.
Are you sure they don't just have those out as a window display and then the real pigs are in a bunker?
This show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Tuesday's front pages before we go. We have The Telegraph. Reeves tax rises are milking us, say bosses. The newspaper. Public spending cuts on the way from 2026 as Reeves vows no more tax rises. Read her thin, mean lips. Mail, no more tax rises, says Reeves. Mirror, mud, sweat and tears. Damn, that's Storm Burt. Metro, Starmer, arm makes spiking a crime. It's hard to get away with, even as it is. Star, all I want for Christmas is you. We never found out what that was about. That's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests, Leo and Lewis. I'll be back tomorrow night, joined by Steve N. Allen and Josh Howie. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. If, on the other hand, you've stayed up with us through the night, I'm very grateful for your company. Sleep well. See you again soon. Good night.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a blustery day, we are going to see winds ease into this evening, leaving a mix of clear spells and showers tonight, and it is going to be turning rather chilly under those clearer skies too. Storm Burt, currently sat to the northeast of the UK, will eventually move its way over to Scandinavia. It does leave behind some blustery winds and some outbreaks of rain for a time, though these will eventually ease away overnight. Still plenty of blustery showers though moving through, particularly around western coasts, and these may linger on for a time, bringing longer spells of rain at times too, particularly across parts of the south. Further inland across central and southeastern areas, we're likely to see plenty of clearer skies, so a risk of frost, perhaps even some fog patches by the time we reach tomorrow morning. So through around Scotland, we are still going to continue to see plenty of showers, mainly around coasts, though a few feeding inland at times too. Under clearer skies, though, it is going to be feeling chilly with a risk of frost. Still plenty of showers around coasts of Northern Ireland, northwest England too. Drier and clearer further east, and generally across parts of England and Wales, it is going to be a much clearer start to the day. Once again, a risk of frost, perhaps even some fog patches by the time we reach the morning. But overall on Tuesday, it is set to be a much brighter day. Still can't rule out some showers, mainly around northwestern coasts, perhaps just feeding inland and across northern parts of England at times. But overall a brighter day, plenty of sunshine, and with much lighter winds, it's likely to feel much more pleasant compared to this afternoon. That's away from northeastern coasts of Scotland though, still some blustery winds here and still plenty of showers moving through. Now, heading into Wednesday, we'll see a bit of a split in the weather. Outbreaks of rain across the south, some blustery winds. This rain could linger for a time across central and parts of southeast England. But to the north of this, plenty of clear skies, plenty of sunny spells, still just a few showers around coastal areas. And to finish off the week, likely to see some foggy and frosty mornings, but still plenty of sunshine by day. Bye for now.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting a call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
For your chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets and My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, a very good evening to you. It's 7 p.m. on Monday the 25th of November, and I'm Martin Dewbs in for the big man Nigel Farage tonight on Farage. Coming up on tonight's show, our Home Office Minister Angela Eagle today confirmed in the House of Commons that a major statistical publication will drop at the end of this week of illegal migrant-related crime. But why have these numbers been withheld until now? I'll be joined in the studio by Reform UK's Rupert Lowe, who spoke up on the issue in Parliament earlier today to discuss this thorny topic. And it's been a bad start to the week for Keir Starmer, as the viral petition demanding a general election has now surpassed over 2.3 million after just a few days. It was only launched, in fact, on Wednesday. But will the online rage have any real-world impact whatsoever? And the Prime Minister dismissed any calls for a general election earlier on today, but he didn't himself push for vehemently for a second Brexit referendum. Yes, he did. Sir Keir Starmer wanted a second roll of the dice when the election result didn't suit him. And also, Donald Trump is sensationally set to remove all transgender people from the US military as soon as his first day back in office, sources have revealed. Is this a political move from the president-elect to keep the right on side, or a necessary step to ensure a strong defence force as global tensions, of course, continue to rise? And Nigel Farage claims the government is trying to fast-track the UK's handover of the Chagos Islands before that man Donald Trump returns to the White House. Well, as Britain's National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell visits Mauritius today, have we witnessed today our territorial surrender to an ally of China? And will Trump step in to stop that move? Before all of that meat-ridden menu, it's time for your news, and here is Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and very good evening to you from the newsroom, 2 minutes past 7. Well, it's being reported that 2 British tourists have now been rescued and 2 others are still missing after a boat sank off the coast of the Red Sea in Egypt. The Foreign Office says it is supporting several British nationals and their families. That vessel was carrying 31 tourists and 14 crew when it went down near Marsa Alam. The cause of the sinking is unclear at this stage, but authorities had been warning of high waves at the time. Rescue efforts are ongoing and being led by the military and local officials. Tonight, the Environment Secretary has said more flooding is likely this week following the devastation already caused by Storm Bert. The storm, which swept across England and Wales over the weekend, brought torrential rain, flooding and 80-mile-an-hour winds. In Northamptonshire, a major incident's been declared as heavy rainfall caused severe flooding, overwhelming local emergency services with over 800 calls received. Authorities there are urging the public to only dial 999 when there is a risk to life. Well, next to some breaking news coming to us out of Estonia tonight, that 12 British soldiers have been injured in a major crash there, involving, we understand, 2 minibuses that were transporting NATO troops. That crash involved 6 vehicles near the Russian border. The soldiers were serving on NATO's Operation Cabrit and were on their way back from their base in Tapa at the time. An RAF jet was deployed to evacuate them, transferring them to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. Well, just staying with that story for a few moments, we've had a statement into us from the Ministry of Defence, and they say 8 of those most seriously injured in that crash have been airlifted to the UK. 3 remain in hospital, and they are saying that 5 have since been discharged. 3, as I say, being cared for at this stage at the Royal Centre for Defence Medicine at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, adding that they wish all of those involved a speedy recovery. At this stage, though, they are saying they won't be commenting on individual injuries or provide any personal details about those involved. Any more information on that we will, of course, bring to you throughout this evening. Well, turning to some other news coming to us from the United States, that prosecutors there have dropped their criminal case against Donald Trump. Special counsel Jack Smith dropped all 4 felony charges against the president-elect related to his alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Trump, who was, of course, indicted in August 2023, had been facing charges including conspiracy to defraud the US. The case, which was put on hold for months while Trump's legal team contested his prosecution, was a historic moment, the first time a former president was accused of trying to illegally retain power. And here, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has defended her budget, telling business leaders it's brought stability to the economy. Speaking at the CBI conference earlier, she said difficult decisions were needed to draw a line under the inheritance from the previous Tory government. Rachel Reeves also ruled out any further borrowing or tax hikes, saying public services must now live within their means. And she also dismissed calls for big tax rises on businesses, saying the economy is now on a firm footing.
We have now drawn a line under the inheritance that I faced. Public finances are now on a firm footing, and also our public services are funded in a proper way. And we've now set the envelope for those public services for the rest of this Parliament, which means we're not going to have to come back for more.
Well, that's it from the newsroom for now. Joe Casper will be here at 8 o'clock with all the top stories. Now, though, it's back to Westminster.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Now let's get cracking with tonight's show. We start with this. The Asylum Minister, Angela Eagle, confirmed today in the House of Commons that a bombshell statistics concerning illegal migration are set to be released by the end of this week. After Rupert Lowe, MP of Reform UK, raised the matter in Parliament during today's Home Office questions. Let's take a listen.
I've been told by her department in response to a written question that the number of crimes committed by illegal migrants is not available through published statistics. I'm sure that the Home Office does hold the data, so would the Minister today commit to publishing that information in full?
There's a huge statistical drop of immigration-related national statistics coming at the end of this week.
There we go. Now, that is a morsel to dangle. However, questions will remain as to why these figures have taken this long to be published, leading to a wider discussion over government transparency or the lack of it, particularly regarding who is coming in and out of our country and what crimes they are committing or not. So tonight, I'm asking you the big question. Is it time that our government published statistics on crimes by illegal migrants? Tweet #Farage on GB News, or you can email us farage@gbnews.com. Well, I'm joined in the studio now by the man who asked that question earlier on today. That's the Reform UK MP for Great Yarmouth, Rupert Lowe. And I'm also joined by GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Rupert, let's start with you. You've been nibbling away on trying to get crime data published and also benefits data, universal credit. That was last week. Why do you want this data published and what do you think it will tell us?
Well, first of all, Martin, so the viewers understand, as an MP, you can ask 20 questions a day of the government, which we've worked out fairly quickly that we should use. And we're nibbling away trying to effectively ask a question and then ask another question and fill the gaps in and try and get as much of the data as we can. I mean, my view on this is that the British public deserve to have transparent, honest data. You know, good government is transparent government. And ultimately, it's the British taxpayer who's paying the bills. And in my world, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And I think it's very important that we get honest, accurate data. And interestingly, when Andrew Eagle answered that question, she didn't deny that they had the data. But she said there was going to be a big data dump later this week. We think it's Thursday, and I just hope she's not gaslighting everybody and going to dump the ONS data, which comes out quarterly anyway. So but we can look at that on Thursday.
Now, Rupert, you have to work this data out yourself in Britain and shade in the blanks and cross-tabulate. I did some work on the number of UK prisoners by nationality, and it revealed that Albanians are 14.5 times more likely to be in jail than Brits. The Kosovans and Vietnamese, 9 times more likely. Algerians 8 times, Jamaicans 7 times. And we've also seen in other countries such as Denmark, which has full transparency, that the Kuwaitis are 9 times more likely to commit crimes, be in prison, and violent crimes are 2.5 times more likely to be committed by immigrants as opposed to the indigenous population, Danish-born. But that's for the population as a whole. You specifically want illegal immigrants.
Well, this question was specifically about crimes committed by illegal migrants, which, you know, everybody says they're asylum seekers. In my opinion, they're not. They're economic migrants. So what we need to do, and a lot of these guys are fighting-age young men arriving on the boats, throwing their passports into the sea. Often they're lying about their age, which in itself brings questions about, you know, schools they go to and sort of threats to the decent tax-paying Brits. So I think what we want is, I mean, we're a very decent nation, Martin. We've had a long history of, if you like, trying to do the right thing, and we continue to do that. But I do think it's so important that if the foundations of our society are to be protected, we must get accurate data on this. I mean, you know, I'm on record on Twitter as saying, you know, 10,500 foreign criminals in our prisons. We're releasing our own prisoners early in order to keep them there. Personally, I would just deport them. If people come here and they commit crime and they go to prison, they should be sent home. And the worrying thing is, in answer to some of our questions, we're finding out that those are regular, repeat offenders, as you quite rightly say. And you then get whistleblowers coming forward, which we're getting now, you know, who work very often in the public sector, and they are giving us the most unbelievable detail, which form the basis of the questions we ask, you know, about perpetrators of crime who are repeat perpetrators, whose fines are then paid out of the benefits that they get. Now, I mean, we want honest data, Martin, and then people can make their minds up. That's what a healthy society should do.
OK, let's bring in Nigel Nelson now. Where can be the opposition to transparency so we're able to make informed decisions about the types of people in the country and the types of crimes they commit? For example, 1 in 50 Albanians is in a British nick, 14.5 times more likely. Surely a sensible country might use that data not only as a way of deporting but also a way of perhaps having a sensible immigration policy in the first place.
Yeah, I'm not against the transparency at all. I mean, if you rent a house or you go for a job, we all have to declare our immigration status to go and do that, so that's fine. What we don't know is whether or not these figures are actually collected. If you listen to Angela Eagle very carefully, she doesn't actually say she's going to give Rupert the figures that he's after. She just says there's a big stats drop coming later on this week.
Yeah.
If we did collect the data, yeah, I think it could be useful. I mean, there was data in the 1990s that, looking at economic migrants into Britain, it showed they committed very little crime. There have been studies in America whereby...
But that differs massively by nationality. For example, in terms of tax receipts, benefits, the whole shebang, Americans, Maltese,
Sure. I mean, you've mentioned Albanians.
Hugely, but if we get down to the granular detail of the nationalities, perhaps who are more prevalent to be criminals and pay the less tax, have the most social housing, claim the most benefits, trends emerge. And what Rupert is saying, what many people who watch this show say, just show us the data.
Yeah, as I say, I'm not against the data coming out. I mean, you mentioned Albanians, that we know that Albanians, a number of them came over here deliberately to commit crime. That's why so many are actually in prison at the moment. We've solved that problem. We've solved it by doing a deal with Albania where we get returns.
Well, Albanians are still the most prevalent foreign nationals in British jails.
They may well be.
We might have solved the problem, but we're still paying for them to be here.
Well, because they're in jail. I mean, what will happen is at the end of their sentence, they'll be sent home because we have an agreement with Albania to return them. And as a result of that agreement, the number of Albanians crossing the Channel has gone down by 90%.
Rupert, are you expecting to get what you want here? Or do you actually believe, as many do, that there is a culture of control and secrecy about what the data we're allowed to digest?
Well, the answer to that question, Martin, is as I go along, I'm hoping that it's not being withheld from us. And there is certainly a degree of, if you like, a lack of coordination within government. But if you notice Angela Eagle, and I agree, she didn't say that she was going to give us new data, but if she's gaslighting us, when we get that data, we're going to be able to call her out. And equally, she didn't deny they had the data. I said in my question, because I think they have got the data, I think they do collect the data, and I think they don't want to release this data.
If they actually claim they haven't got the data, why are they not collecting the data? It seems an absolutely basic thing to collect the immigration status, the nationality of anybody in a prison, anybody who applies for benefits. Why would they not collect the data?
Well, I think they do collect it because from the questions we're asking, and this is what I was saying, it's like a jigsaw trying to fit it together. Some of the answers we get to some questions indicate they are collecting, which is why I made the comment I did in my question. So I think they have got it. But I think as they look at the answers to some of these questions, they're beginning to say to themselves, well, hang on a second, maybe we should be looking at this. I'm sort of hoping that my questions might prompt that. But you know what? This week I had a meeting with Daniel Zeichner. He looked me in the eye and he said he thought that the public sector was more efficient than the private sector, at which point I thought I'm probably trying to push water uphill. But, I honestly, some of these front bench ministers, I think of 26 of them, 3 of them have got questionable business experience. And you could argue it's the blind leading the blind. But, and you had Rachel Reeves in your studio or doing an interview recently. I mean, what the damage she's going to do to the British economy is just to the private sector, not the public sector, is going to be catastrophic. And the public sector is a function of the private sector.
And, Nigel, do you have any fears about how any of this data could be used? A lot of critics on the continent, in Sweden, in Denmark. Data was published last week by the German Treasury, an astonishing set of data, showing that 63% of all benefits claimants are of foreign origin. That means they're either born abroad or they're children of those born abroad. Germany is going transparent. Denmark is going transparent. Sweden is going transparent. We're not. But could that data be used for nefarious reasons? Might entire communities be targeted? For example, everyone thinks, well, all Albanians are bad eggs, all Kosovans are bad eggs? Do you have a fear the data could be used badly?
There's always that danger, and it rather depends what it shows. I mean, my suspicion is that if this data is collected, and I do say it's a big if, I mean, Rupert reckons the Home Office do it. I've seen no evidence they actually do collect this data, but we'll find out towards the end of the week. But what it might show is if you're an asylum seeker, the one thing you want to do is stay in this country. The likelihood you'll commit a crime and that will completely stop your asylum application is pretty unlikely. So it may not show what Rupert wants it to show.
We can't deport Afghans, we can't deport Syrians, we can't deport Iraqis or Iranians if we wanted to, because they would be sent back to a hostile regime.
But that's right.
They know they can play the game.
Well, I mean, I'm sure some people do that, but you're absolutely right. There are certain people you can't send back to certain countries, Afghans being an example, nor should we. We don't want to actually send people back to a place where they're going to get executed.
Germany is doing that. Liberal, open Germany is returning Afghan criminals to the Taliban. Their reckoning is, if you're going to commit crime, that's your bad choice. Off you go, son. The Germans are doing it.
OK, doesn't mean we should.
OK, we'll leave it there. Nigel Nelson and Rupert Lowe, excellent start to the show. And, of course, all eyes on Thursday for when that data drops. Thank you very much, Rupert, for joining us in the studio. Now, bad start to the week for Keir Starmer, some might say, as the viral petition demanding a general election surpasses, as you can see, that live ticker, 2.385 million after just a few days. Only came out, in fact, on Wednesday. But will the online rage have any real-world impact whatsoever?
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dewbs Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage with me, Martin Dolan. Now, before the break, we asked, is it time the government published stats on crimes by illegal migrants? And Sue says this: of course, the numbers of migrant crimes should be published. The public have a right to know this information and how many migrants are being held in our prisons, and also the cost. Roberts adds this: it's an outrage that data on immigrant crime has to be begged for. The people have a right to know all of the data, and government decisions must be seen to be responsive to this data. I have no confidence that this shambolic government will be honest. And Linda says this: data will be welcome, but only if they are accurate and not massaged. Now, a petition calling for a general election has passed 2 million signatures. In fact, it's nudging 2.4 million. And the campaign, started by the publican Michael Westwood on Wednesday, has been signed by those who believe the current Labour government have gone back on their promises. And this morning, Keir Starmer ruled out calling another general election, but said he was not surprised some people want a rerun. Let's take a listen.
Look, I remind myself that very many people didn't vote Labour at the last election. I'm not surprised that many of them want a rerun. That isn't how our system works. There will be plenty of people who didn't want us in the first place. So, look, what I focus on is the decisions that I have to make.
Isn't it funny how, you don't get a second chance? That's not how we do things in Britain. Well, it's quite something, isn't it? Coming from the man who spent 3 years calling for a rerun of the Brexit referendum.